Hello, welcome to Have a Tea with me. My name is Chris. You're watching the Lesson Jigsaw channel. We are here for English language conversation practice. If you are learning English, you need to practice your speaking skills, your conversation skills. We are here for you. All you need to do is to click on the link that you will see in the chat shortly. I haven't put it there yet, but if you click on the link you will see in the chat, you can come on through to the studio. We can have a live conversation here today. So let me just do that now. Click on this link to join the live stream. Okay. So if you click on that link, yeah, as I say, you can come on through. We can chat about whatever you like. While I'm here by myself, I'll just talk about random things. But if there's a particular topic you want to talk about, or a particular maybe situation you want to practice or role play or something like that, we can do that as well. Maybe you just need to practice some chit chat and gentle conversation, let's say, and certainly we can do that as well. So whatever you may need, we can practice. So that's essentially why we're here. It's just for English language conversation, to help you gain confidence in speaking English in different situations, and maybe practicing some different vocabulary, or just vocabulary that perhaps you've learned or seen somewhere and don't get the chance to use perhaps, and you just need to find a place to practice using that language, because it is, of course, really, really important. You can make lots and lots of vocabulary lists. You can have lots of I guess chunks of language, or bits of language that you have from reading different books, reading articles, listening to different things. But if you're not actually practicing it, it doesn't really sink in. It doesn't really become part of your natural vocabulary, I guess, that you use. It's a nice little expression there, to sink in. For something to sink in. So, for example, the language doesn't sink in until you really use it. And I guess we use sink in. Interestingly, we use sink in. So it's like when something is like, it becomes, I guess, really understood by us. So like sometimes you might get some news, or I guess probably one of the most common ways that we see it is like if someone has a big achievement. Say, for example, someone, I don't know, you might see it with sports where someone, I don't know, wins a championship. And so they're like the number one player, or whatever, something like that. Or indeed, maybe someone has passed an exam with really, really good numbers, and they've qualified maybe for university, or completed a particular course or something that they didn't imagine perhaps that they would pass or complete. And someone might ask them, has it sunk in yet that you've achieved this achievement, that you've completed this thing, and you've done what you wanted to do, I should say. And maybe it could be like a journey. Maybe you're trying to, I don't know, get to a particular point, and it's a particular challenge for you. Maybe you want to climb a mountain in your country, or something, or somewhere else, and it's a really big challenge for you because of the height or personal struggles that you have. And again, someone may ask you, has it sunk in? Okay, has it sunk for the past participle? Has it sunk in that you've actually completed what you wanted to do? And those sorts of things. So yeah, it's you sink in for I guess a couple of different things there. But in this case, we want the language to sink in. So we want it to become part of your accessible vocabulary that you use. So the words and expressions that you're commonly using. We want it to become a part of that. So as I say, this is Have a Tea with Me. The channel is Lesson Jigsaw. 12 o'clock Universal Time is the time that we do the show, Monday to Friday. Now, if you're watching the replay of this show, thank you very much, and hello to you. And please, if you want to put any comments in after the show, that's fine, and we can answer any sort of questions or certainly read through your comments even after the show. The live stream has finished. You can obviously still write comments. Now, if you like to participate in the program and this particular time is not good for you, so 12 o'clock Universal Time is not good for you, you can always send us an email, chatonlessonjigsaw@gmail.com. So you can see it on the screen there, chatonlessonjigsaw@gmail.com. Let us know where you are in the world, your time zone, and also let us know some times and days in general where it might be better for you to have a chat. We can do maybe perhaps do a live stream at that time, and we can give you that conversation practice. So yeah, just send us an email, and we can see what we can do. What else? Okay, I forgot today to put on some nice gentle background music. Let me just sort that out now. Okay, that'll be coming. There we go. It feels much more calming now, in a way. Yeah, definitely more gentle with the background music. Okay, okay. Now, when I'm here by myself, and we're looking to encourage people to speak, there are many different things that we can use as a stimulus. Yeah, so the prompt for speaking or prompt for conversation, and the same in many exams as well. If you're preparing for an exam for English, one of the prompts you might have for a discussion is something like an article, things you see around you. Could be like a video or a movie that you saw and talking about that, and other things like photos as well. Photos or pictures, images of different things. Could be cartoons as well, and you could be giving your opinion on something. Maybe there's a particular issue that comes out from that photo. It could be, I don't know, you have a personal story about that photo, or it brings back a memory of some sort. And I always encourage people, when you're looking at different materials and you're looking at different things to talk about, think of the question words. So when you're thinking of what can I say, apart from perhaps the obvious, think of the question words. So you can obviously start with the basic information, and then perhaps go a little bit deeper. And the way to do that, or one of the ways to do that, is to think of questions you can ask, and ask yourself the question, and bring out the answers. So think of the general question words, or the basic question words. So who, what, when, where, why, how, and any other question you can form. And then look at whatever it is that you've been reviewing. So maybe that's an article or a photo or whatever, and then ask yourself questions about that. So let's have a look at this photo today. So I guess the most obvious question, we can see it's obviously a location. So I guess the question is, where is this? Where is this? And I assume this is pretty well known by most people. I think Yeah, I think this is probably one of the more famous sites around the world. No, beautiful tea. I think, like, if people think of, I guess, really historic or significant places from history that are perhaps very stunning or thought-provoking, I guess people look at places like they look at Egypt and the pyramids, they'll look at Rome, the Colosseum, and then there's, I guess, places in Central and South America. And certainly when you're looking in South America, one of the places that you'd think about is Machu Picchu. And so that's an image of Machu Picchu with the clouds in there. Now this photo doesn't look like there are many people. It looks like one of those photos where perhaps they've taken out the people. But one of the interesting things about Machu Picchu, well, let me ask you, have you been to Machu Picchu? Have you visited Machu Picchu? And if you did visit Machu Picchu, how did you travel up there? Did you walk? Did you catch a bus? What was the method of transport? I have to say I was lucky enough to visit Machu Picchu, and what's interesting for me is that I find Machu Picchu to be exactly like the photos. And perhaps this is the same for the pyramids, but it looks exactly like the photos, and you'll always see like this sort of classic angle with the view down into the construction, I guess you would say, or the village. And but what's interesting is that even though it looks exactly the same, there's a I think, I don't know, a special feeling when you're there and you see it, and you get the grass around you, and you see the llamas sort of sitting around, just sort of enjoying the atmosphere and that sort of thing. But it's quite an interesting place to visit, I think. If you haven't visited Machu Picchu, I think it's definitely a good place to see. Of course, there's the village near Machu Picchu, which is has some interesting things just by itself. Of course, as you can imagine. Okay, so it's like, obviously, I'm going to introduce something very, I guess, obvious, perhaps. As you can, well, we'll use both, as you can or as you could imagine. Continue. So as you can imagine, it's a very touristy place, very, very touristy place. And with that, you have, I guess, different ranges in terms of quality of different things. So in terms of restaurants, accommodation, and that sort of thing. So, and some things, I'd say some things are value for money. Meaning whatever you spend, you get, it's a good price for whatever you receive. So it could be, as I say, like a meal, or like a room, or a bed, or whatever it is. You can get value for money. So you feel happy with the money that you paid for what you received is value for money. But also there are lots of things in like in every touristy place. You can get things that are very much not good value for money. I have to say, I found some of the restaurants there, or the food places, a bit ordinary, I would say, in terms of what they produced or what they served. But I have to say other places as well were extremely good. So it's like a mix. And of course, with things like, I guess, restaurant and food, it can always depend on the time, the day, which people are there, if it's peak season or low season. Peak season or low season. Peak season is the one where it's the busiest, and low season is the opposite. So it's not too busy. I can't remember the season when I went. I think technically, I think they classified it in the middle. I think they have like a season that's like in the middle. Maybe they call it maybe off peak. So I guess a common thing, but I think it was like off peak season. Of course, peak as well. If you think maybe you see peak in other places, there's a few other places that we use it. Like for mountain as well has a peak, but you often see it for things like utility bills. So for things like let's say electricity, gas, heating, however that may work, water. It's water. I don't know if water does it, but anyway, things like that. So etc. And you'll have times. So not necessarily times of the year, although that may be the case as well, but times. So for example, for gas and electricity, maybe the peak times are, I don't know, let's say 5 o'clock until 9 o'clock, maybe. So when most people are at home will be the peak time to use it. And that's when probably the cost per unit will be the highest, probably. Although I know in some places they have crazy prices anyway for that, and I guess especially now, but I know in some places for the past year or so, or even more maybe, they've had crazy prices, let's say. But yeah, so the cost per unit can be the highest when it's at the peak time. So not necessarily peak season, but peak time. So I think I was in an off-peak season, so it wasn't quite low season, but it was like in the mid-season perhaps. So it was still like there was still like enough people there. It wasn't like it was empty by any means, but it wasn't overcrowded. I would say it wasn't overcrowded. It wasn't overcrowded. So you can have crowded, so it's like busy with lots of people, but overcrowded is like when you say it's too much or too many people. It's overcrowded. Crowded can be too many people as well. It depends on your opinion. Remember, with too many or too much, you're giving an opinion. It's your evaluation and your thought about it, as opposed to a lot of people. So a lot of people is more like a fact in a general sense. So you're just saying there are lots of people in a place, a big quantity. Whereas too many, you're saying there should be less. So just a nose between those two. Let's do this. Let's do verses. So you can do the comparison. So yeah. So, and I don't know. So, but when I went there, I went up with the bus, and that was an interesting ride in itself, I have to say. The bus was, I don't know, it depends what you're into. It can be a scary experience or a bit of a thrill. It depends how you, maybe if you think about how you are in theme parks, when you have like roller coasters and different rides, what your position is. So it could be scary or thrilling. Use adjectives. So, but obviously, I survived. And Joe and I, well, okay. So let's ask this as a question. So what do you do to calm yourself down during a scary, let's say, ride? Because I guess maybe with different experiences that are scary, it can be different. Some will be obviously more serious than others, but let's say a scary ride, and that sort of thing. What do you do to calm yourself down during a scary ride? What I do is I tell myself, maybe this is good or bad, I'm not sure. I tell myself, I haven't seen any news reports about any accidents. And I guess not, like, for example, I think where is that? I think that Death Road is in Bolivia, I think. So there I know there's a reputation like for people dying on that road and accidents on that road. And I think there's like regular deaths on that road. I think. And so I would be much more cautious with that. But I know, like, I don't think I've ever heard of an accident. In fact, even like reading articles and checking different things, I don't hear about any accidents or whatever there. So I guess the thing is that all of the bus drivers seem very experienced, very, very experienced. So they know all of the turns, the sharp turns that they're doing for the way up and the way down, and they know what they have to do when they're passing another bus, and that sort of thing. So they're very capable drivers. So I calm myself by telling myself that. Certainly, it's an interesting thing, and of course, when you get to Machu Picchu, generally you need a guide. So outside the gates, there will be loads of guides, lots and lots of guides to offer their services to you, to show you around, give you a tour of Machu Picchu. When I went there, I stayed for a couple of days, so I went up twice. So I went up the first day and I just enjoyed it myself, I would say. I just, without knowing the details, I just went there, had a walk around, followed some of the different paths of around the place, and just sort of like explored it myself. I don't know, when you travel, do you like to explore by yourself? I find, for me, that's the best thing. I prefer exploring myself and finding just different things myself, discovering, if you like. I feel like I'm discovering the place in a way by myself. And then I would, or then the next day, as I did here, the next day, I then got a guide, or we went with a guide to tell us a bit about the history and the story, and that sort of thing. And that was a very nice thing to have the guide then tell us about the history, and then I guess you have more of the context. But I certainly think, I don't know what you think, I think it's a nicer thing to experience it yourself, feel it yourself, and get your own interpretations and feelings, and then get perhaps like a more official version. Not that's not exactly the right word, but something with more like that you read from let's say from a textbook and that sort of thing. I guess in a way, perhaps you could make a similarity between if you read a book and then watch a movie. Because if you're reading a book, you have the imagination yourself, or the ideas yourself, but if you watch the movie first, when you see like the name of a character, you have the image of the actor or actress that was playing that character. So it's a different sort of thing. So I think that's a good question to think about. So do you like to discover new places without a guide? And of course, when we say guide, a guide can of course be a physical person, like in Machu Picchu, they have physical people, I think, as well, if I remember correctly. So nice little thing, if I remember correctly. So you can say this, like I just did, to show hesitancy, uncertainty. So you're giving some, some sense that perhaps what you recall is not 100% correct. You're not 100, you're not sure, but it could be. It could very well be correct. So if I remember correctly, you could also have audio guides. So they would tell you about the history. But I think there are also guides that you can just download anyway. Like you can download onto your phone and then just use headphones and whatever. So I think you can actually just download them anyway without getting the guide that you can buy there. But I think that's right. So you can have the person, you can have an audio guide, or you can do like I did on the first day, just go around by yourself and discover. And of course, when we say guide, of course, guide is also, like we're saying, the audio guide, but it can also be the book. So I guess the one that I guess most people think about, if they think about book guides, they think of guides like Lonely Planet and that sort of thing. And they can, I guess, read the different things. I guess the problem with those sorts of things, though, is if it's in a guidebook like Lonely Planet, or if you talk about things like restaurants, I think the most famous one is the Michelin Guide and that sort of thing. The Michelin Guide story was actually quite interesting, the way that the Michelin Guide started. Because I think, what did I hear? It was something like, because Michelin is the tire company, and obviously they're supplying tires for the cars, and cars I think when the guide started, cars were fairly new, but the problem was they weren't selling enough tires. So people were just like using the cars, but I think only like for like short trips, I guess, like maybe going to the shops or whatever, maybe to the next village, but not going out too far, not wearing the tires enough. So good. So to wear or wear down tires. Oops, types now. Tires. This is the British English spelling of tires. If you're seeing the American English, you'll see tires with an I. But, there we go. So they're not wearing down the tires. And so what they did was they said, let's do a guide. This is sort of paraphrasing, I guess, in a way. Let's do a guide with all these different restaurants. So we'll get people out of wherever they are and they go and travel to visit these different restaurants and try these different food options and these different cuisines or dishes, or look out for these different chefs and that sort of thing. And so with that, they got people to drive more and then use the tires more. So then they were, selling more tires. Was the plan. I think it's I think the word we could use for this is ingenious. Okay, there we go. Spelling correction. Nice. Ingenious. It's like unbelievably clever. Like a very good. If ever you think about like a strategy, that's you think, how do I get to achieve the target? That's like it's a very very good way. Instead of just like telling people go on, travel more, they give them the incentive and the way to travel, the reason to travel. So that's a fantastic thing. So why was I talking about that? Okay, because we're talking about different types of guides. So I guess, yeah, so the difference with, or the thing about using guides is then places that are perhaps more unknown, or another word we use sometimes for places that are not too well known. It's part of the meaning sometimes. Say off the beaten track. So it's the beaten track comes from like when people think of like a bit of a forest or the countryside or somewhere, and like the path where people walk, and they think of like a normal grassy area. Think of a grassy area and people walking on the same bit of grass, and you'll see the color change, and I guess the texture of the ground there change. So, and then you'll see a path. It becomes a clear path, and that's the beaten track. So that's where most people go, and you'll see other bits where it's just perfectly green, and people don't normally walk on those parts. And that's effectively what off the beaten track is. So it's like to go to places or go different ways that people don't normally go. So maybe not the most common touristic route in different places. And it could be like a route, or it could just be locations as well. So like most people, I don't know, if you, if we take Australia, for example, most people would probably go to Sydney. I would say is probably the most common location to enter. So Sydney or Melbourne perhaps is the most common places. And if you're talking about where tourists go, possibly the most common path that they will go is, say, from Sydney, and they'll go up towards Brisbane and the Gold Coast. So they follow the east coast of Sydney, and perhaps they go even further up north. And they go like maybe all the way up to Cairns or something. I think would be the most common path or most common track for people to go. I say track, but it's a proper road and everything. But the most common path. But less common would be to go out west and go to some of the country towns. And so the coastal path, you'll have lots and lots of, towns and cities in between. But if you go out west, there are towns and cities, but less of them, and a greater distance between them. So perhaps less facilities in total in between. You have to be more careful when you're driving with petrol and that sort of thing as well. So it's and you just get a different experience. And part of the different experience is that if you go up the East Coast, you will have lots and lots of facilities for tourists, because there are lots of tourists going there. So the infrastructure is there, if you like. The infrastructure for tourists. Infrastructure for tourists. And that includes things like roads, accommodation, places to eat, and that sort of thing. So wherever you have tourists, you'll have lots of options generally. But there are obviously, you can still, you find places to sleep and eat if you go, other directions as well. But perhaps it's more of a local experience, let's say. And that's quite often when you go off the beaten path. Let's put that in. So to go, there's the combination there. So to go off the beaten path. Let's do it. Where we go. There we go. And so if you're off the beaten path, people, because I guess a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time, people want to meet locals and to get more of a real experience, not just feel like a tourist necessarily. And that could be the thing. So when you watch, when you use a guide like Lonely Planet or something like that, So there are certainly very good advantages to doing that, and you can perhaps see things you might not see otherwise if you just go by yourself or you just go to tourist information, perhaps. But if you just go to the places in there, they're going to be very well known because lots of people are reading the book and they'll see the positive suggestions for maybe like a cafe or a restaurant or a museum or whatever it may be. And so lots of people will go there. Whereas there could be other options that are perhaps just as good or whatever. I remember going to, where was it? I was in Hanoi in Vietnam, and just asking people around, locals, in sort of the best way we could work out where is a good place to eat or whatever, or for different types of food or whatever. And they would give us different suggestions. And I remember one suggestion was for like a banh mi, like the bread roll that's obviously filled with different things. And we got this suggestion, but interestingly, there was a banh mi place about 10, 15 meters away from the place that we were told. And this one was very, what would be the word? I don't know, let's say it had been changed for tourists. Let's say the seating was like very comfortable, almost like a restaurant, really. It's like but it was just like for rolls. So the seating was very comfortable and it was all like very sort of trendy looking in a way, but very, very popular. And it was like loads of tourists there. It was packed. It was packed. It was packed. Loads and loads of tourists there. But the place where I went, there were no tourists. And this was the place where I was told to visit. So there were no tourists there. There were a bunch of locals just sitting down on the little stools that they have there in Vietnam, or little seats, not stools exactly, but people just sitting down eating their banh mi. It's very much like very close to the side of the road. I think it was like on the corner of an intersection, and it was, I don't know. It's just now I don't know if necessarily the place was better or worse than the other one, but certainly I think the feeling you can get is that it's a more local experience because you're amongst the locals. And I think that's what people do anyway, in some ways, isn't it? They look at the restaurants and you look at the restaurants where the locals are eating, as opposed to where you'll see like a bunch of tour groups. You know, if you see a tourist bus stop and people go in, or I guess the other giveaway, sometimes, not always, is the menu in English, you know, and particularly, and I think it's more if the menu in English is out the front, when they've got the person standing outside the front and you've got the menu in the local language, English, French, Russian, German, maybe like you have like a series of different languages that are presented to you. I guess the immediate feeling is you get, okay, so they're looking for tourists to come, and there's nothing wrong with that, of course. And certainly it's can be very useful to have the menu in English or in whatever language you need. It can be very useful, but I think it's sort of, I don't know, I sort of feel better. I don't know what you think. Maybe this is crazy talk from me, but I don't know. I sort of feel better if I can go into a place and we can just sit down and we can try from the local menu, see how we go, and if not, maybe they have, in my case, an English menu available, and then you can look at that and look at the way things have been translated and that sort of thing, and maybe have a joke or whatever. But yeah, see how it's written and look at the version there if you need some help for that sort of thing. Often though, I think you can get good information about what dishes and stuff, and you get like some of the common words or popular dishes, local dishes, from many websites and literature and books and stuff. But you can also just like look around, I guess is the easiest way. Look around on what other people are eating, because I don't know, I've been to quite a few places where you have this huge extensive menu, and then you look around. I remember, what was that? I can't remember what type of restaurant. Maybe it was a Chinese restaurant. I can't remember, but it was in this restaurant, and the menu was like quite extensive. You had lots and lots of different options, and I was looking around, and everyone there, it was like lots of locals, and everyone was eating this type of soup. So I just asked the waitress, and I said, "Can I just have one of the soups, please?" I don't know which one it is here, but just one of the soups. And I think that can perhaps be a nice. It's a bit sort of random, perhaps. It's a bit like you don't know what you're going to get. Maybe it's like, I guess there's always a danger. If it's like, if you're not into spicy food, for example, it could be too spicy and things like that. There's always a danger, but it's part of the journey, isn't it? Part of the experience. So yes. All right. So just a reminder. This is Have a Tea with Me. You are watching the Lesson Jigsaw channel. We are here every day, Monday to Friday at 12 o'clock Universal Time for English language conversation practice. If you need to, if you're learning English, you want to practice your speaking skills or your conversation skills, we are here for you. All you need to do is to click on the link that you see in the chat. If you click on that link, you can come on through to the studio and you can chat to us. So while no one else is chatting, I'll just talk to myself, which is what I'm doing. But certainly, if you like to come through and have a chat, just need to click on the link and we can have a conversation. So at the moment, I've been talking about Machu Picchu and traveling and that sort of stuff. But if you like to talk about other things, certainly there's whatever option we can chat about. It's an open, like you say there, it's an open English conversation practice session. Okay. If 12 o'clock Universal Time is not good for you, you can, of course, always send us an email, chatonlessonjigsaw@gmail.com. You can send us an email, let us know where you are in the world, let us know your time zone and some days or times that may be better for you to have a chat. We can see if we can arrange a time to do a live stream with you and have a conversation with you at a better time. Maybe let us know what you'd like to chat about as well, and we can see what we can organize. So that email address is chatonlessonjigsaw@gmail.com. Okay. So we have been chatting a little bit about Machu Picchu. Let me know let me know in the comments what places. Let me know if you visited Machu Picchu and what your experience was like. I guess first of all, but also if there are any, let's say incredible destinations that either you have been to or you would like to visit. So we mentioned some other ones before, like I guess the pyramids and the Colosseum. I think are considered pretty amazing places to visit. So let me know if either of those are places you would like to visit, or maybe somewhere else where you think would be an incredible experience to visit. And I guess there are many, and I guess maybe even every country has their own particular feature or destination or site that could be pretty incredible. And I guess some stand out more than others. Like certainly, if we think of something like Machu Picchu, I guess part of the attraction is that it's not easy to get to. It's not like you can just catch a train, or you just fly in and like you're there. It's a journey to get there. So, and I guess most people, I guess if they're going to, well, I guess it's where you come from, but most people, I guess if they go to Peru, they would fly into Lima, and then if they want to go to Machu Picchu, they have to fly to Cusco, and then from Cusco either catch the bus or the train to Machu Picchu Pueblo, or the village for Machu Picchu. It used to be, what was it, Aguas Calientes before. And then from there, catch the bus actually up to Machu Picchu. Or, of course, the alternative is, there's a few different places where you can go from, but then walk up to Machu Picchu itself. Could be the other option. But it's not like a straightforward journey. It's not like, I don't know, you fly into Rome and then you go to Colosseum metro station. It's a bit of a different experience to that. So I guess that's one of the attractions for a place like Machu Picchu. And then there's the whole wonder of, how did they build this, at the time, and how did they move things, and how did the people work, and what were they doing, and how comfortable was it? And I know they have, if you go there and go through the different, or take a tour, they'll give different sort of explanations and that sort of thing about different things, and perhaps different explanations or theories. And I guess you can read them online as well in different places. But I think it's a place where you can still wonder for yourself and think how incredible it is. And I guess another thing is that it was only discovered, well, relatively recently, let's say, relatively recently. If you consider the history of the world, let's say, and how long, civilizations and people have been around, and if you think as well, like how long the Spanish had been in Peru, and how they didn't know, and because I think that's right. I think people didn't tell them. People didn't tell the Spanish about Machu Picchu, and they didn't. I guess didn't go exploring. I guess because of the way where it is and how it's situated. Of course, if you see it from the air, I guess it's obvious. But if you're looking from the bottom up, you're just thinking it's another mountain. So you're probably thinking, oh, okay, why climb all these mountains? We'll stick where we are, and we can climb the mountains later. It didn't necessarily seem anything special. But I can't remember how, because I think the guy, what was his name? Bingham, Hiram Bingham, I think it was. I think he heard from someone. It was like a whisper or something that he heard, or it was like a report of something that he heard, and he explored. I think it was something along those lines. I could be mistaken though, but it was something along those lines. But very interesting anyway. All right, we are going to leave it there for today. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for liking, subscribing, following, all those sorts of things. We are on YouTube, Facebook. We've just recently started on Twitch as well, and on Twitter. You can see the live streams, and certainly most of the videos though that you'll see from us are on YouTube. So don't forget to follow us there if you're watching in another place. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to leave a comment if you'd like to. We are here for English language practice, so we're very happy if you producing English. So that's either speaking or writing English. We're very happy to see that you're practicing the language. So best of luck. I hope you're having a great day. What's today? The 14th, when this live broadcast is going out anyway. It's the 14th of April, 2022 in most places of the world. So I hope you're having a great day. If it's the morning, afternoon, or evening, I hope it's a fine day for you. You're keeping safe, keeping happy, keeping well. And we'll see you next time. Best of luck. Thank you for joining.